Hello, everybody. This is Rob Orrison with the Prince William County Office of Historic Preservation. I am at a little-known site here in Prince William County, the tomb of William Grayson, which is right here behind me. We're going to give you a little bit of history about who William Grayson is, where this place is located, and some preservation work that's been done here in the past 10 years. So William Grayson is known by a lot of people who study the American Revolution, but not known a lot by people who live here. William Grayson was born here just down the road in Dumfries, Virginia. He will be a son of Benjamin Grayson, who immigrated here from Scotland. They lived here in this big hill, which is now today in Woodbridge. And after his teens, William Grayson is going to actually attend College of Philadelphia, which is today University of Pennsylvania. And then for a few years, he'll be in school there. Then he's going to head out to Europe to study law at Oxford. There is some people that believe he might have gone to Scotland, to Edinburgh for law school as well, as his family is from Scotland. But for most reports, we think that he was studying law over in Oxford, England. Comes back here in the 1760s and immediately takes an active role in leading Prince William County. In 1766, he's going to be involved in something called the Leedstown Acts. Now, what Leedstown Acts were, these are resolves that were written in Westmoreland County in response to the stamp crisis that was going on, the Stamp Act crisis that was going on in the colonies. William Grayson will put his name on that, which is kind of unique considering his age. He's in his 20s. And he doesn't live in Westmoreland County. He's up here in Prince William County, but just kind of to go to show that he is very much involved in the American cause for equal rights and no taxation from the British government here in the colonies. Soon after, he will start a law office here in Dumfries. Some of his clients would be more famous people like George Washington, Robert Carr III, or two of his most famous clients at his law office. He built a house on what is today the modern-day Potomac landfill there, located in Dumfries at the intersection of 234 and Interstate 95. So he's one of the founders of the town of Dumfries. He owns land in Dumfries. He's run a successful law business in Dumfries. And like I said, very involved in colonial causes. And he will be one of the leaders in what's called the Prince William Resolves in June of 1775. In reaction to the Boston Tea Party in Boston and the intolerable acts that were passed by Parliament, because of that, Prince William leaders will get together and pass a set of resolves in support of the Bostonians and people in Massachusetts, to talk about how they will not import British goods and how they will support the people in Boston and their fight against the British policies that were so hurting Boston at that point in time. So William Grayson is one of those leaders that puts the Prince William Resolve forward, one of the first resolves done in Virginia to support Boston. So you kind of see how people in Virginia are starting to connect themselves with people in Massachusetts, and William Grayson was a big part of that. So as the country started to really, as the colonies really start to forward themselves into a war mode, William Grayson is going to take a very active role here in Prince William County in gathering the military and try to arm the citizens here and the militias. I'm going to bring on my colleague, Billy Griffith, who's going to talk a little bit about William Grayson's military career, because not only is it very important what he does before the war, he has a very active military career. Billy?
Thank you, Rob. So in late 1774, as the fuse leading to the powder keg of revolution begins to burn more aggressively, William Grayson is going to get his first taste of military service, when throughout Virginia, most of the younger landed gentry begin to raise independent companies. And here in Prince William County, Grayson is going to help organize and will become the captain of the Independent Company of Cadets. And down in Williamsburg, Virginia, as Lord Dunmore in April of 1775 seizes the powder magazine there for the colony, help is going to be requested to confront this. And Grayson and his company are going to take to the road and head down towards Fredericksburg, Virginia, but they will, however, be ordered back to Prince William County before they could get to Williamsburg to assist Patrick Henry and his militia there. The next year, or later that year, in June 1775, Virginia, after its third convention, is going to begin to realize that it needs to have some kind of semblance of organization when it comes to defending its colony. So they're going to create 16 military districts, and every military district is going to be required to raise 500 men to serve at a minute's notice. And here, the Prince William Battalion of Minutemen will be formed up of men from Loudoun, Fairfax, and Prince William County, and William Grayson will be made its colonel. That battalion will be sent down towards the Hampton, Norfolk area, but they won't see any action. So early in 1776, Grayson is going to leave his battalion service and enlist in the Continental Service. A close friend of George Washington, he is going to be made the Commander-in-Chief's Assistant Secretary in June, and 2 months later, he's made an aide-de-camp. But realizing that staff work isn't where all the action is, Grayson is going to get his chance to have his first real taste of battle, when in January of 1777, Washington is going to lobby Congress to raise more additional infantry units, and Grayson will be made colonel of one of them. It's called Grayson's Additional Continental Regiment, and it's going to be made of men from Virginia as well as Maryland. And his regiment is going to see service in New Jersey during the spring of 1777, as well as at Brandywine outside of Philadelphia and Germantown outside of Philadelphia as well, where they'll be part of Charles Scott's Virginia Brigade, part of Adam Stevens' division, and Nathaniel Greene's wing. But William Grayson is probably most notable, but really saw minimal action at Monmouth, but still played a significant role. In June of 1778, near Freehold, New Jersey, Grayson, at the head of about 300 Virginians of Scott's Brigade, is going to be leading a corps of observation towards Henry Clinton's British Army around Monmouth Courthouse. And it's his men who are going to come into sight of the British for the first time. Charles Lee, commanding this advance guard, will form up his line. There won't be much action. Some miscommunication is going to force Lee's army to fall off of the battlefield of Monmouth. Washington comes up and wins a tactical victory there. But Grayson's service during the war will essentially be over, because his unit is going to be molded into another additional regiment. He is then going to resign his commission after that. However, he will be then appointed to what was known as the Board of War. You can think of that as the predecessor to the War Department. So a very important administrative role during the Revolutionary War.
All right, thank you, Billy. So Billy covered really well the military experience that William Grayson has in the American Continental Army. After the war, he comes back to Prince William County, reopens his law office, and then is quickly elected as Prince William's representative to the Virginia House of Delegates, which is meeting in Richmond at that point in time. He'll serve a few years in that capacity, and then soon he'll be elected to Congress. So he will be this region, Northern Virginia's appointee or elected official to the Continental Congress. So keep in mind, at that point in time in the 1780s, the Constitution had not been passed yet, so he was still serving in what was called the Continental Congress. And one of the things that he did that he's most notable for in the Continental Congress is he helped author the Northwest Ordinance. Now, the Northwest Ordinance developed the states in the old Northwest Territory. Those states included Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and so those states were actually claimed by Virginia at the time of the Revolution. Virginia worked out a deal with the federal government to sparse up those states, use the money to sell the land off to pay off federal debt, and create new states. And Grayson actually helped author that bill. One of the important parts of that bill was the restriction of slavery. So no enslaved people could be brought into those territories. So which will play obviously a big role in how the country will steamroll itself to Civil War many years later. But Grayson was really effective in writing that legislation to get those new states and those new territories created. So in 1787, the United States Constitutional Convention will meet in Philadelphia and discuss a new form of government. It will get proposed to all the individual states. In 1788, Grayson was elected to represent Prince William in Richmond to debate whether or not Virginia would be part of this new constitution. Now, oddly enough, Grayson would be considered anti-federalist. Himself, George Mason, Patrick Henry, all did not foresee Virginia approving the Constitution, ratifying it, and joining the new federal government. Solely, mostly, if you look at his writings, mostly based off the fact that there was no Bill of Rights included in the Constitution, And also, they were both all worried about a overreaching, overpowerful federal government infringing into the rights of these states. Keep in mind, this is very early on in our history, and these states saw themselves as very much separate countries. But as we know, Virginia did ratify the Constitution, and we did join the United States Constitution and federal government. And oddly enough, William Grayson would find himself elected to the United States Senate, being one of the first 2 U.S. senators from Virginia to sit and represent Virginia in the U.S. Senate. Oddly enough, it's funny, he opposed the Constitution, but then a few years later would serve as our first senator to that body. Now, sadly, William Grayson will only serve for 1 year. He's going to take his seat in the Senate March 4th, 1789. He's going to serve that 1 year. He's going to come home. All throughout his life after the war, William Grayson is going to suffer from gout. And as he's traveling back through Dumfries, at that point in time, in the 1780s, he did not live here in Dumfries. He actually lived out west near Winchester. But he's coming back here visiting his brother who lives here at the family home at Bel Air. And he will die here on March 12, 1790, here at Bel Air. And he will be buried here in the tomb, the family tomb, which is right here behind me. He's buried here shortly after that March 12th death in 1790. And I'll read you a little bit about his will. His will is very simple. It's only a few paragraphs, but it lays out exactly what should be done. He left his entire estate of 1,200 pounds and 8 shillings to his kids, divided up amongst evenly between his kids. And he also left in his will that all of his enslaved people, which we think was about 20 people that he had enslaved over in the valley, would be emancipated upon his death. So very simple will, divides up the money, frees his enslaved population. We don't know what happens to his wife. We know she continues to live out in the valley. Some reports have her being buried here in the tomb, but it's not really been 100% verified that she was actually brought here when she died a few years later. His obituary, which showed up in the Fredericksburg newspaper a few days later, said this about William Grayson: his abilities were equaled by few, his integrity were surpassed by none. Very simple obituary honoring him. The state of Virginia honored William Grayson by naming a county after him. Grayson County, Virginia, which exists today in Southwest Virginia, is named after William Grayson. There's also a county in Kentucky named after him as well. So obviously a very important person to Virginians when he died to name 2 counties after him. And also there's a local Sons of American Revolution chapter that is called the William Grayson chapter, named in his honor. And I mentioned that group because it was that group that worked with the county, and worked with some Eagle Scouts and some local donors to actually restore the tomb you see here. About 2014, county staff working with Eagle Scouts restored the landscape here and restored this tomb and put these nice plaques here honoring not just William Grayson, but also his brother Spence Grayson, who was a chaplain during the American Revolution as well. So both men are considered Revolutionary War veterans, and the SAR group, William Grayson group, and the Eagle Scouts did a great job making this site publicly accessible. So where are we? If you want to see this tomb, and I highly encourage you to do so, we are in Woodbridge off West Longview Drive. The land to my right and your left is private property, but there is a fence here that will lead you from a parking area to the tomb. And the tomb here, you see, you get the 2 plaques for William Grayson and Spence Grayson. And there's also other graves that archaeology had found around the tomb here. We don't know who they are, but we know there are graves located here. But I highly encourage you to come visit. We're doing this video because March 12th, 1790 was his death day, being March 12th, 2021. We thought it'd be important for us to come out, share with you the history of William Grayson, who he was, why he was important, why he was one of Prince William County's most distinguished citizens from that time period, and the great preservation work that the county did with private partners to honor this man and restore his tomb. Thank you.